Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real. You cannot have peace in your life until you make peace with yourself. Self-acceptance is often misunderstood. People think that if you accept yourself, you're just giving up, like you're throwing in the towel and saying, this is it, I'm done growing. But that's not what self-acceptance is, not even close. Self-acceptance is not saying you don't want better for yourself. It's saying you don't have to beat yourself up in the process of getting there. It's saying, I see who I am right now in all my strengths and struggles, and I'm choosing to love myself anyway. See, a lot of us walk around thinking we have to earn love from others, from the world, and worst of all, from ourselves. We think we have to hit a certain weight, reach a certain income, check all the boxes before we're allowed to feel good about who we are. So we keep grinding, keep pushing, hoping that once we make it, we'll finally feel worthy. But here's the truth. If you don't love yourself now, you won't love yourself later. You might get richer, fitter, more successful, but that inner critic will still be there whispering, not enough. That's why self-acceptance matters, because it says, I don't need to wait to be proud of myself. I can stand tall in who I am today, even while I work on tomorrow. Loving yourself doesn't mean ignoring your flaws. It means you're no longer defined by them. You can acknowledge where you want to grow, but you're not going to tear yourself down in the process. You're not going to treat yourself like you're broken just because you're evolving. You're going to walk through the mess with your head held high, knowing that you're still worthy of love, respect, and peace right now, not just after the glow up. And let's be real, the world can be harsh. People will judge you, overlook you, misunderstand you. If you're waiting on their approval to feel good about yourself, you're going to be waiting a long time. Self-love means you stop outsourcing your value. It means you stop putting your self-worth on layaway, waiting for a future version of you to come pick it up. You're not settling by accepting yourself. You're actually stepping into power. Because once you stop fighting yourself, you free up all that energy for living. You can stop hiding, stop shrinking, stop pretending. You get to just be. And that's where peace lives. That's where joy starts. That's where confidence is born, not in being perfect, but in being real. So no, self-acceptance isn't settling. It's one of the bravest, most revolutionary things you can do is looking yourself in the mirror, scars, stretch marks, mistakes and all, and saying you are enough. And I love you anyway. Inner peace doesn't just show up one day and knock on your door. It's not something you stumble across by accident or earn by hustling harder than everyone else. Inner peace begins the moment you give yourself permission to feel it. The moment you stop waiting for the world to calm down or for life to be perfect or for people to finally see you, and instead you say to yourself, it's okay to be at peace. Right here, right now. See, most of us have been trained to believe that peace comes after something, after we succeed, after we fix everything that's wrong, after we please everybody, after we meet some version of perfection. We've attached peace to performance. We think, if I just do this right, if I just get through this mess, then I'll be allowed to breathe. But the truth is, life doesn't work like that. There will always be one more problem, one more mountain, one more voice trying to tell you that you're not enough yet. If you're waiting for peace to show up after the storm, you'll miss the chance to realize it was always within you. Peace is an inside job. It's not about your surroundings being quiet. It's about your spirit being settled. And that can only happen when you stop fighting yourself, when you stop living in constant resistance to who you are, where you are, and what you feel. It begins when you finally say, I don't have to prove anything to be at peace. I don't have to fix everything today. I just need to allow myself to rest. Giving yourself inner permission means saying no to chaos, even if it's familiar. It means choosing calm even when drama is calling your name. It means giving yourself a break without guilt. So many of us carry guilt for simply pausing. We feel bad for taking care of our own heart, for sitting still, for choosing peace over productivity. But here's the thing. Peace isn't selfish, it's essential. When you give yourself permission to be at peace, you're not denying the reality of your problems. You're just refusing to let them own your soul. You're saying, yes, life is hard. Yes, things aren't perfect, but I still choose to breathe deeply. I still choose to trust. I still choose to feel okay. That is a powerful decision. That is what it means to be truly free. It's easy to say, I'll relax when, but that list of wins never really ends. Real growth happens when you decide, I don't need another reason. I don't need another milestone. I just need to let go. Peace isn't something you earn, it's something you allow. You allow it by stepping off the treadmill of constant proving. You allow it by knowing that you are still worthy even when you're not striving. Inner permission is about claiming space for your soul to exhale. It's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's just a whisper that says, you don't have to carry this anymore. Sometimes it's the quiet refusal to argue, to explain, to apologize for needing stillness. And in that quiet moment, peace comes in, not like a storm, but like a sunrise, gradual, gentle, powerful. So no, peace doesn't come from outside circumstances lining up perfectly. It starts with a decision. It starts with a choice. It starts with a yes from you to you. The moment you stop waiting for life to give you peace and start giving yourself permission to feel it, that's when everything begins to change. We live in a world that constantly tells us to strive for perfection, perfect bodies, perfect relationships, perfect careers, perfect lives wrapped up in filtered photos and highlight reels. And somewhere in all that noise, we start to believe that our value is tied to how flawless we can be, that we're only as good as the version of ourselves we can polish up and present to the world. But that belief is not only false, it's exhausting. The truth is, your value is not based on perfection. It never was, and it never will be. Your value isn't conditional. It doesn't rise when you succeed or fall when you make a mistake. It's not a currency that gets spent when you fail or saved when you win. Your value is constant. You were born with it. It's built into your being. You don't have to earn it. You just have to remember it. See, perfection is a moving target. Even if you chase it for years, you'll find it keeps slipping just out of reach. There will always be something you could have done better. Someone else is doing more of, some flaw that gets magnified in your mind. And if you base your worth on that impossible standard, you'll never feel enough. You'll spend your life editing yourself, shrinking yourself, doubting yourself, and for what? For approval that vanishes the second you mess up? The irony is, it's often our imperfections that make us real, that make us relatable, that make us human. People connect through shared struggle, not shared perfection. You don't inspire people by pretending to have it all together. You inspire them by showing up with authenticity, by owning your scars and still choosing to stand tall. That's where your power lives, not in being untouchable, but in being unapologetically real. You are allowed to grow and still be valuable right now. You can be a work in progress and still be worthy of love, respect, and kindness. You can have bad days, lose your temper, fall off track, and still hold immense value. We've got to stop believing the lie that says, I'll be enough when, because that win never truly comes. And even if it does, it brings a new set of rules, a new version of perfect to chase. The most freeing realization is this: you don't have to perform for your worth. You don't need to achieve more, look a certain way, or become someone else just to be worthy of being here. You already are. Right here, right now. Not when you lose weight, not when you get promoted, not when you finally forgive yourself, but now. Messy, beautiful, whole. When you stop tying your value to perfection, you start showing yourself more compassion. You stop tearing yourself apart over every little flaw. You start celebrating effort, not just results. You start embracing progress, not just outcomes. And most importantly, you give yourself permission to be human. Because at the end of the day, no one remembers the people who were perfect. They remember the people who were real, who showed up with heart, who dared to be themselves, no matter how imperfect that looked. So take the pressure off. You're not a project to be completed. You're a person to be loved. And that starts with how you love yourself. Your value isn't in the flawless version of you. It's in the truth of who you are. And that truth, it's more than enough. We've all made mistakes, some small, some that haunt us at night when everything gets quiet. And for some reason, those mistakes have a way of sticking to our identity like labels we can't peel off. One wrong decision, one moment of weakness, one thing we said or did years ago, and suddenly we start believing that's who we are. But that's a lie. You are not your mistakes. Mistakes are moments, not definitions. They are events in your life, not the sum total of it. They're part of your journey, not your entire story. Every human being on this planet has fallen short in some way. Everyone has said something they regret, done something they wish they could undo, or missed a chance they wish they had taken. If mistakes made people unworthy, this world would be empty. But the beautiful truth is that mistakes are often how we learn. They're teachers in disguise. They shape our wisdom, they humble our pride, and they carve out space in us for empathy. Think about it. Some of your deepest growth came after you stumbled. Some of your strongest qualities like resilience, patience, and compassion were born from seasons of struggle and failure. You don't gain strength from comfort. You gain it from getting up after life knocks you down. Still, it's easy to fall into shame, to replay the past like a broken record and judge yourself over and over. Shame wants to convince you that because you did something wrong, there's something wrong with you. But that's the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt says, I made a mistake. Shame says, I am a mistake. And you got to reject that lie every time it shows up. You are not the worst thing you've ever done. You are not the lowest point of your life. You are not that failure, not that regret, not that broken moment. You are someone who lived through it, someone who learned from it, someone who is still standing. That matters. That's strength. And here's the thing. If you keep defining yourself by who you were in your lowest moment, you'll never get to see who you can become in your highest one. You'll keep dragging your past into your future, wondering why you can't move forward. But freedom starts when you stop holding your identity hostage to a version of yourself that no longer exists. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about remembering that your future is bigger than your past. It's about giving yourself permission to grow beyond your failures, because that's what you deserve, not a life of punishment, but a life of purpose. Don't let people or even your own inner voice convince you that one chapter defines your whole book. You're still writing. You're still becoming. And as long as you're still here, still breathing, still showing up, you've got the power to change the narrative. So be kind to yourself. Speak to yourself with the same grace you'd give someone you love. Look in the mirror and remind yourself that the person staring back has been through a lot, but they're not done yet. They're healing. They're growing. They are not perfect, but they are worthy. You are not your mistakes. You are the lessons you've learned, the growth you've embraced, the strength you've built. You are your comebacks, not your collapses. And you have every right to move forward, every right to forgive yourself, every right to build a life that reflects not where you've been, but where you're going. It starts so quietly. You're scrolling through your phone, walking through life, minding your business, and then suddenly you see someone who seems to have it all. They look happier, more successful, in love, traveling, winning, shining, and before you even realize it, you're measuring your life against theirs. That's how comparison creeps in, slowly, silently, and once it's in, it starts chipping away at your joy, because comparison kills contentment. It doesn't matter how good your life is. Once you start comparing, it'll never feel like enough. That promotion you worked so hard for doesn't shine as bright when someone else just got something bigger. That outfit you felt confident in suddenly feels average when you scroll past someone who looks like they just stepped out of a magazine. Even your victories start feeling small when you hold them up against someone else's highlight reel. But here's the truth. You're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's final cut. You're looking at their edited version, their best moments, their curated content, and stacking it against your raw, unfiltered reality. It's not fair to you, and it's not even real. People show what they want to be seen. They don't post the tears, the doubts, the arguments, the lonely nights. So why are you measuring your worth against their illusion? Comparison will rob you of your gratitude. It'll take your focus off what you have and shift it to what you think you lack. And once you start living from a place of lack, you start doubting your journey. You stop celebrating your progress. You start chasing validation instead of fulfillment. Before long, you forget how far you've come because you're too busy watching someone else's path. Everyone has a different timeline, a different purpose, a different story. Just because someone is ahead in one area doesn't mean you're behind in life. You're not late. You're not off track. You're right where you're meant to be. Growth doesn't look the same for everyone. Some bloom early, some bloom later, but we all bloom in our own time. Imagine how much peace you'd have if you stopped looking sideways and started looking inward. Imagine how much joy you'd feel if you appreciated your own milestones instead of minimizing them. That moment when you stopped waiting for approval and clapped for yourself, that's freedom. That's contentment. Because contentment isn't about settling. It's about standing in your truth and saying, this is my life and I'm proud of it. I'm not perfect, but I'm present. I'm not where they are, but I'm growing where I'm planted. That's real wealth. That's deep happiness. That's the kind of peace comparison can never offer. When you stop comparing, you start connecting to yourself, to your purpose, to the life you've been given. And in that space, you find room to breathe, room to grow, room to be enough without needing to prove it. So guard your heart, protect your focus, celebrate your journey, even if no one else sees it. Because the moment you stop measuring your worth by someone else's story is the moment you start living yours, fully and freely. Acceptance opens the door to healing in a way that nothing else can. It's the first crack of light that breaks through after the darkest storm. It doesn't mean you're okay with what happened. It doesn't mean you approve of the pain, the loss, the disappointment, or the struggle. Acceptance isn't about pretending everything's fine when it isn't. It's about finally facing what is with honesty and without resistance, because you can't heal from what you won't even admit exists. See, most of us walk around carrying wounds we've never even looked at. We buried the past under busyness. We cover pain with smiles. We try to outrun our emotions, thinking if we just keep moving fast enough, they won't catch up. But healing doesn't come from avoidance. Healing begins the moment we sit down with our truth and say, this happened, this hurt, this left a mark. That's when the real work begins. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means giving in to reality so you can finally stop fighting it. Because fighting what's already happened is like trying to hold back the tide with your bare hands. It's exhausting. It leaves you drained, and it never works. When you resist your truth, you stay stuck in it. But when you accept it, you make space for growth, for movement, for change. Maybe something didn't go the way you planned. Maybe someone hurt you. Maybe you hurt yourself. Maybe life handed you something heavy and you've been carrying it in silence. Acceptance says, yes, this is part of my story. Not all of it, but part of it. And when you stop denying it, you stop giving it power over you. That's how healing begins. Not by rewriting the past, but by releasing the grip it has on you. Healing doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be real, to meet yourself where you are, even if where you are feels broken, confused, ashamed, or lost. Acceptance gives you permission to stop pretending, to stop performing, and to start showing up as you truly are. And in that space, you find compassion, not just for others, but for yourself. Some people fear that if they accept the pain, they're inviting it to stay. But it's the opposite. Denial traps you, acceptance frees you. Because the longer you refuse to face something, the longer it controls you from the shadows. But once you name it, you can start to tame it. You can look it in the eye and say, you are not who I am. Healing is messy. It's not linear. Some days you'll feel strong. Other days you'll feel like you're right back where you started. But every time you choose acceptance over avoidance, you take one more step forward. Every time you say, this is where I am and that's okay, you build a little more peace within yourself. We often want healing to feel like a miracle, sudden, dramatic, complete. But real healing is quiet. It's in the moments you choose not to hide. It's in the decision to keep going even when it hurts. It's in the breath you take when you feel the weight of your past but keep standing anyway. So let go of the idea that you have to be okay to start healing. You don't. You just have to be honest. You just have to say, I'm ready to stop running. Acceptance is not the end of the road. It's the beginning of the real journey, the one where you stop trying to erase your story and start learning how to live with it, grow from it, and rise above it. That's the power of acceptance. That's where healing truly begins. Self-acceptance is power, not weakness. It's not giving up or settling for less. It's standing tall in the truth of who you are and saying, I'm enough right now. That takes courage. That takes strength, because in a world that constantly profits off your insecurity, telling you to change this, fix that, improve more, it's a radical act to look at yourself, flaws and all, and still choose love. See, self-acceptance isn't about pretending you have nothing to work on. It's not about ignoring your growth or denying your mistakes. It's about recognizing that you can hold both truth and grace at the same time. You can own your imperfections without being owned by them. You can want to grow without tearing yourself apart in the process. Weakness is chasing every version of better that the world throws at you, never feeling whole unless someone else approves. Weakness is waiting for permission to be proud of yourself. Weakness is believing that your worth only shows up once you hit the next goal, look a certain way, or fit into someone else's mold. But power is choosing to show up as your full, unfiltered self. Power is looking in the mirror and saying, I am not broken, I am becoming. Power is knowing your story with all its mess and beauty and not being ashamed of any of it. It gives you freedom. It frees you from the chase. It frees you from needing validation that was never yours to beg for in the first place. When you accept yourself, you stop living life on defense. You stop hiding parts of yourself to please people who were never meant to see the real you. You stop over-explaining, over-apologizing, over-compensating. You move different. You walk into rooms with your head high, not because you think you're perfect, but because you've made peace with who you are. That's a different kind of confidence, the kind that can't be faked. Self-acceptance doesn't shrink you. It expands you. It allows you to step into relationships, work, and dreams without the fear of being exposed or not being enough. It silences that inner voice that keeps trying to convince you you're behind, broken, or not worthy of belonging. You become rooted, grounded, and from that place, you grow. Not out of shame, but out of love. You'll still have moments of doubt, sure. You'll still have hard days, but self-acceptance arms you with the strength to face those days without crumbling, because you know who you are even when the world tries to convince you otherwise. This kind of power isn't loud. It's not always flashy or dramatic. Sometimes it's just a quiet moment when you choose to forgive yourself, when you stop picking at old wounds, when you stop waiting to be someone else before you let yourself be happy. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to stand in your truth and say, I'm okay, I'm worthy, I'm enough. So don't confuse gentleness with weakness. Don't confuse self-love with self-indulgence. It takes real strength to hold yourself with compassion in a world that wants you to be hard on yourself. It takes power to choose acceptance in a culture built on comparison. You don't have to be anyone else to be powerful. You don't have to wear a mask, fit a mold, or chase someone else's version of success. Your power is already within you, and self-acceptance is the key that unlocks it. Peace isn't found in the applause, it's found in the mirror. We spend so much of our lives chasing approval, running after claps, likes, praise, and recognition, thinking that if we just get enough applause from the outside, we'll finally feel good on the inside. We perform, we impress, we try to fit the mold, smiling when we're exhausted, pretending we're fine when we're falling apart, just to hear that validation from someone else. But the truth is, applause fades. It comes and goes with the crowd. It's loud today and silent tomorrow. If your piece is built on the noise of others, you'll always be waiting for the next round of clapping to feel whole. The mirror, that's different. The mirror doesn't lie. It doesn't play favorites. It doesn't care about your performance. It reflects who you really are when the lights are off, when the stage is empty, when no one's watching. And that's where real peace lives, not in being impressive, but in being authentic. Peace shows up when you can look yourself in the eye and know you're being true to your values, your heart, your purpose. That's the kind of peace no one can give you and no one can take away. See, applause is conditional. It's based on how well you performed, how much you pleased people, how much you lived up to someone else's expectations. But inner peace, that's based on alignment. It comes when who you are matches how you live. It's the kind of quiet confidence that doesn't need a standing ovation to feel proud. It doesn't need a spotlight to shine. Sometimes the hardest person to please is the one in the mirror. You can fool the world, wear the mask, play the part, but deep down you always know whether you're being real or not. You know when you're hiding. You know when you're betraying yourself to be liked, to be accepted, to feel valuable. And no amount of applause can drown out that inner knowing. That's why peace never shows up in the noise. It waits for you in the quiet moments when you drop the act, strip away the pressure, and just be. It's when you stop needing to prove yourself that you finally start to feel yourself. When you stop performing for love and start giving it to yourself instead. When you realize that the most important validation isn't from a crowd that barely knows you. It's from the version of you that shows up every single day and tries again. So many people spend their lives chasing applause and still feel empty because applause is temporary, but self-respect, self-honesty, self-love, that's lasting. That's the kind of peace that carries you through the ups and downs, through failure and success, through lonely days and loud victories. And the beautiful thing is, once you find peace in the mirror, you no longer need the world to clap. The applause becomes extra, not essential. You don't have to beg for attention when you've already given yourself approval. You don't have to chase love when you've already learned how to give it to the person looking back at you. So stand in front of that mirror, not to judge yourself, but to meet yourself. Strip away the pressure, the expectations, the roles you've been playing, and just see yourself. Peace is there, waiting, not in who the world says you should be, but in who you already are. So when all the lights go down, when the noise quiets, and the world turns away to find its next thing, What matters most is how you see you. Not the version you perform, but the one you live with, the one in the mirror. Because self-acceptance, real self-acceptance, is the foundation of inner peace. It's the strength to stand in your truth, the courage to embrace your journey, and the grace to love yourself fully and freely. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be real. And when you can look at yourself and say, I may not have it all figured out, but I love who I'm becoming, that's the kind of peace no applause can match.